So one of our Stoa purposes is to build Stoa Speech and Debate Club. So tell us just a little bit about your club experience.
Sure. We started out pre-Stoa. It was the early days of this, and we were so glad to have other people running clubs. We didn't know what we were doing, so it was wonderful to just take just one student at that time to a place where there was a real gung-ho young lady who was coaching it and taking care of it, and it was great. We loved that. But these young people that run these clubs, especially if they're students, they go on to college or they get married and they slip away. So God really put it on our hearts that we should start our own club. And we really didn't know how to do that other than kind of what we'd seen already, which was always a great model. And we were really just more of a speech club. I was really comfortable with speech stuff, not so comfortable with debate. So we limped along in the debate world, and we just started out with a few, maybe there were five families, maybe less, and we were in our living room. We just met in our house, and we have a little hearth. And so when it was time for someone to speak, they would go up and they'd stand on the hearth, and they'd give their speech and give notes and work through things like you do at a club. And that was great. We loved that. And if that was all we ever were, that would have been fine. But because of word of mouth, and people started catching on and hearing about what we were doing and understanding that, wow, this is great, especially for homeschoolers. How do we get involved? So our club grew, and we then had to meet at a church, and we had to have a few different rooms. And then it got to the point where friends of friends were asking to join, and it was like, wow, it's great to be big. It's great to have great families. But we don't want to be too big, because then we become unwieldy, and it's harder at tournaments, actually, if you have a really big club, because you can't judge all the rooms depending on what's going on there. So we said, when we could see there was someone who was just really had a hankering to join us, we'd say, how about this? You start your own club, and we're going to help you out. So we did that for at least 2, maybe 3 clubs. And I think that those clubs are still at it today, which is super exciting. But the way we did it was they would meet on a different day. We would meet on Mondays, and they would meet on Thursdays. And then we said, we will send students over. We will send parents over. I'll go over. We'll join you. We'll coach, and we'll help you out. And that was great, because then it's growing. Other people getting to do it. All the benefits of running a club, as you know.
So I competed with Paradigm in San Diego, and I think that was a very fun experience, especially right about the time that Stoa was starting. Paradigm wasn't like the club that was, or one of the clubs that was starting Stoa, but definitely part of a lot of those conversations. And the first couple of Stoa presidents were parents, my friends' parents, who were connected to Paradigm. And so that was a really cool experience, just working together with a large group of people who it was a fairly large club. So lots of people working on lots of different types of speeches, lots of people on both sides of debate. And with the way that Paradigm in particular was structured, a lot of the students were already my friends from a local homeschool co-op. And so it was like getting to sing in choir with friends, and then also getting to do speech and debate with them. And also play an orchestra with friends. So it was a very fun group of people, and people that I still am able to stay in touch with today.
Great. And that's part of it, is having a lot of fun and a lot of community while we're still learning along the way. So
exactly, yeah,
makes the club a lot of enjoyment, look forward to going to.
It's been, about 20 years ago that we started the journey with Christian Homeschool Speech and Debate. And we just felt it was a calling as an organization. And in the state of Missouri, we started as the first club in the state of Missouri. And that grew to 4 or 5 clubs. And as we see, as I would say, we have generational turnover. So the people that we worked with 20 years ago their children are grown and gone, but we have new clubs that have started or have evolved from that. So there's kind of a breathing, a natural kind of organic movement. And, you know, I always think that, you know, things happen for a reason, but in the state of Missouri, you know, a lot of the media today talk about COVID-19 has forced a lot of people into homeschooling, which I kind of grin because I'm like, I don't think you really know what homeschooling is all about, but they talk about it on the radio, and I just think that it's illustrating, and it's just giving examples of what parents can do with their children at home, controlling the education and tailoring it specifically to the needs and the interest and the things that just excite young people today. So I think it's still, you know, if I had children still today in education, K-12, we would be all in as far as Christian homeschool education.
Yeah, we've got a lot of opportunities maybe opening up for us with all the extra homeschooling that's taking place. So
that's right.
Well, our partnership with Stoa, with respect to our involvement with the local club, really was the impetus for that was the opportunity to begin this partnership, host the NITOC event, and that really opened our eyes with respect to the local chapter here and the folks that were involved in the local chapter. And as a result, we are now in the founding years, the formational years, if you will, of beginning our own collegiate speech and debate program. We've been engaged in the process of unveiling a pre-law program as well. And so those things kind of track hand in hand. But really to sum it up, what we are now doing here at DBU is a direct result of our involvement and engagement with, of course, Stoa nationally, but more specifically, the local chapter of Stoa here in the Metroplex.
And we love seeing that. I mean, it's been so exciting for me to hear about how it's developing on your collegiate level too. And just, it's exciting for many of our Stoa students who have graduated and then joined the DBU family. So it's nice to have that extra partnership there.
Well, I participated in a couple of different clubs here in San Diego, and it is, you know, the process of bringing new families, new students into an activity where they're just as new as we were. We didn't know. I mentioned my son's first impromptu round, and so he gave his speech, and somebody said, "Well, I bet you're looking forward to the next round." And we're, what? He does this again? He says, "I do it again?" We didn't even know. I mean, we just knew so little. And that's, everybody comes in like that. And so the opportunity to work with families and shepherd them through the process. And I think parents learn as much as, at least me as a parent, I did learn as much or more than our students do. And I think that we benefit tremendously from the activity as well. And just, we see that being reproduced in club after club after club, but not just here in San Diego, but around the country.
Yeah, Stoa is from its governance model perspective, is decentralized. We have national leaders like the board, but the action really happens on the ground with the clubs. So families gather in club sizes from a handful of families to 50, 60 people. My experience was awesome. I was involved in a speech club and a debate club separately here in the Santa Clara Valley. And that was my local community, even more so than my church in many ways, because we met so often, we're so engaged. So fantastic people again. We coached each other's kids, which is very helpful to see so many different perspectives. Yeah, the local club was the way we really connected with Stoa.
Yeah, we are starting a brand new club, actually. It's been in existence for 1 year total through a chain of circumstances. Let me say something up front. Sometimes you see a club out there that's got name recognition, it's been around for 2 decades or whatever, and then it splits. Everybody goes, "Oh no, that's terrible." Well, yeah, there's sad parts to that, friendships splitting up and so on and so forth. But there's also something good in that now you've got 2 groups of people who are trying to grow the activity of speech and debate. And so you got two clubs where before you had just one, and it offers more options to people who are looking, because sometimes people relate to one club where they wouldn't relate to another. And this kind of thing over and over and over again has really enriched the landscape, at least in the state where I live. So we're a result of that. And now we find ourselves, before I was in a club that was able to draw only from one homeschooling group, just because of the way it was structured. Now I'm in a club that can draw from any homeschooling group. We're trying to get this thing going. It's growing by leaps and bounds. We're able to extend the speech and debate opportunity to people who before would have been denied that opportunity, because in our area, to be in the only club that was really here, you had to have had a little money to get in the particular homeschooling group. Now that's not a thing on the table. And it makes it more accessible to people.
It was baptism by fire. I was one of the somewhat reticent moms. I was reticent at club, not at home, because leaned into debate. Never had any background myself in high school. I did some speech, but I didn't do the debate side. But we had a coach leave the club that I was in, and I just kind of fell to me by default. I was the one who had the most passion for it and was willing to step up. And loved it, absolutely loved it. And I grew with the kids. I learned with the kids, did a lot of research, read a lot of books, and then joined Stoa the very next year. That gave us a lot of autonomy to personalize our clubs, our tournaments to our community and their needs. And pretty quickly after that became an instigator for other clubs, where we started to travel around to other states, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, lots of other places, and start just saying, hey, here's what we've learned. If we can do this, you can do this. Here's resources. We developed a lot of resources. We had what we called tournament in a van, where we would show up and help people run tournaments, so that once they saw one time that they could do it, they grew. So my club experience, we had spin-off clubs. It became way more than I ever dreamed that it was going to. It was wonderful, blessing.